Third time is a charm with a bit of luck. Here we go. Apex Racing TV software tutorial. We are talking about the iRacing live timing software. How we get that set up and working so that the director, race director, broadcast director, streamer, whatever you want to call him, can control your iRacing screen, select the driver, change the camera angle so you can see what is going out on the broadcast in live time, no delay. And then we're going to basically install OBS, and we're going to pull the overlay software from the SDK gaming servers and present this all in one big image so that you can have basically a world feed straight to your PC before it goes to YouTube. So we're all commentating on exactly the same thing, the same camera angle, the same driver, the same graphics on screen at any one time, and we're just hoping that that will just improve our presentation a little bit further. Right, let's jump into the iRacing live timing. Part 1 of this tutorial was about installing the Google Drive. If you haven't done that, it is worth going back and just doing that first. Of course, the Google Drive is there for all of you guys to use. We have unlimited storage. Feel free to use some of it, but be mindful we are on a shared account, so don't put anything too sensitive in there. Yeah, well worth doing because it creates a virtual cloud hard drive. So these files are we don't have to store all of this stuff on your machine. It's just stored in the cloud, and it's just it basically looks like a hard drive. If I just quickly go to it, so there you go. That's what it looks like there. So and you just navigate around to it. Now, of course, this mine will look a little bit different to what you've got. You'll just have basically at the moment you'll go into it, my drive, and then it's broadcast and comms is all you'll see. So I'm just going to go into other software for this one. So start off with the iRacing live timing. You double click that. The first time you'll go into it, it will bring up a firewall alert. I'll just move that onto my screen that I'm capturing. And just hit allow on that, and that will allow you to run the software and for it to also talk to the outside world as it needs to. And then here's the window again. I'll just bring this up on your screen. Just scale it as you want. You scale in the top left and top right corners. At the moment, it's loaded in the default. Project file. Which we will need to change. Now, of course, I've grabbed this file, the iRacing live timing, off of the Google Drive. It's just in AA overlay. At the moment, the latest version we've got on here is 4.3.8.9. There's a new version out that will be added very shortly. It's worth us all using the same one. Just copy. This is worth storing locally, not on the on the cloud drive. Just find there's a couple of little quirks with it. If we're trying to pull the software from the internet to actually run it, just slows it down a little bit. So we want it stored locally. So just plump this somewhere, I don't know, on your desktop or a little folder that you might have for Apex Racing TV, and we'll run it from there. I've just pulled this one and put it onto my desktop for now. Okay, so here's the software. For the purpose of this video, we're going to pretend that we are going to stream an iRacing BSR Grand Tour event, and that's the project file that we're going to look up. Now on screen, it will be an Indy 500 race, but yeah, that doesn't matter. I just need something long enough so that I can go through this video. So when you come in and you know what series it is that you're going to broadcast, we need to basically load the project file for that particular series. You don't necessarily need to, but it's just good practice for us to do that. So into the settings, it's the dots at the top here next to the line, and then what we're going to do is right to the bottom, and we're going to go load project. Now, obviously, you're not all going to navigate straight to the right folder that you want to do. So in the Google Drive, you find the series that you're doing. So the BSR Grand Tour is the one you want. Say it's the Euro V8s, then you just go into Euro V8s. They're all laid out the same: series overlay and project folders. And if I go into Grand Tour, series overlay and project folders. Now, it will look at the relevant files that it's after, so the live timing projects. Just grab the latest version. Typically this is going to be something that the stream admin has done, prepped for the broadcaster, or the broadcaster's made some last minute changes or something like that. So just go in there, double click that, and what that'll do is that will pop open the window. Now it's shifted off screen for me because it was set to be on sort of a different window when it was last saved, and it was also 1440p, so it's kind of remembered those settings. Now to just grab it at the top to shift it back, and then of course do that, get it into your position. Now it's worth pointing out that you can't actually adjust the bottom while this window's open, so just close that to do that. So that's the iRacing software, live timing software open, and you're in the right project file. Now, for a broadcaster to be able to control your iRacing screen, you need to be in the same room name as him, so the live timing server room name. Now, if you've loaded the project file, you should be in the right one. But if for whatever reason they've had to change it, just ask them what that is. They'll give you the code. It is case sensitive, so make sure you have the same case. Now, if you're going to be a commentator, we need to change the connection mode down here from broadcaster to commentator. Now, what that will do is that will say that should now say that you're connected to the broadcaster connection status. If they're there, of course they're not. They don't exist in this particular video, so I won't be able to demonstrate that because that doesn't happen. The last thing you need to do as a commentator is just hit this up arrow at the very bottom, and then this is where all the controls are. You can see there's quite a lot to it for the broadcaster, but we need to change the mode from master to slave. Now my iRacing window is going absolutely nuts while I've done this, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch it back to master just so it doesn't go too crazy anymore. But yes, so that's kind of what you need to do. Now at this particular point in time, the broadcaster has full control of your iRacing, the cameras that it's looking at, the camera pack, well, not so much the camera pack, but the camera angle and the driver that's being selected on screen. It is worth pointing out, as I mentioned, camera packs as well. Once you've got loaded in and you're connected in here, you really should load the camera packs in as well. So AAA camera packs, just copy the cars and tracks. Oops, not all of them. Cars and tracks, we'll right click, copy them, head to your documents, iRacing, cameras, and then go paste. And what it will do is it will just basically copy over ones you've already got there, or just import our new ones in. So of course this is coming from the cloud drive, so it will take a little bit of time to do, and then eventually it should pop up and go, oh, do you want to overwrite some existing ones, and you just go replace, just to make sure you've got absolutely the latest versions on there. Now of course once you've done that once, they don't change too often, but so it'd be worth just just grabbing them every couple of months or something like that, just in case there has been some updates. I'm sure we'll post on Discord as and when we do make changes. But right, so back to the software. So there's not an awful lot more for you to do at this particular point in time. I just need to quickly change back to broadcaster just for the video. Okay, and I'll set the race going in the background so we can actually get a little bit of data showing up on screen. Now, what we have got here, obviously there's 33 cars out there. It looks pretty small. You could make this a bit bigger if you wanted to. You zoom at the very top, you know, if you wanted 80%, it becomes a bit bigger. I find 75 is good for me to read, and I get quite a lot of cars in as well on the timing screen, which does help. Now of course if you have 60 cars, so if it's like a touring car event, Oh, notice the that switched over. Cheeky. Yeah, so this was where the zoom was. But yeah, I noticed when you have a lot of cars, you can scroll up and down, but 75 gives you a good chunk of information here on the window. Now, of course, you can use this as your live timing window. If you have more than one screen, it's worth having this on a separate screen to what will be your iRacing and OBS screen, just so you've got all that live data. So just to sort of cover this, what you've got is you've got positions, how many positions the driver has gained or lost over the race, their car number, and their iRacing colour, as it has pulled down, obviously their name, and then dash stroke their team name. Now if you don't want the team name to show, now of course I haven't got Matt Cook's team name, so it's just defaulted to Matt Cook. But if you just wanted just driver name, you could have full driver name like that, or you could have their short name, so Cook and then .m, or you could even go just their initials. So you can just change it a little bit as you need to be, or you could just have just team name. If it's a team event and you only want the team event, then you can do. You can change what comes on screen in this section here on the data. So you just go show, or so like position. You can, if you wanted to hide the position, not that you would ever do that, you could do. But yeah, so you have obviously the name, and then you have the lap that they're on. So this is a replay of the Indy 500. So we're on lap 39, and you can see 0.8 and 0.9. You know, it's basically the percentage of the lap. And then you have the gap behind. So the car driver behind, well, it's just overtaken. So 700ths of a second, and then 3/10, 4, 5/10. You know, it just gradually comes up. And then the intervals between them as well. Now, what you've got to remember is the interval is based, if I say, for example, if I go into the driver here, so from Andrew Wood, the driver ahead is 1/10 of a second, and then the driver ahead of him is 3/10 of a second ahead. So you've always got to remember it's relative to where the selected driver is, it's above. So if you're on the top driver, for example, it's always going to be the below timing. So Constantini is 1/10 of a second behind. Kevin Ellis Jr. is 1/10 of a second behind Michele. But yeah, so like if I select me, now that Jamie is 2/10 of a second ahead of me, and Austin Esparti is 6/10 of a second ahead of Jamie. So it does move around based on where you are. So you just got to be mindful of that. It's relative. The interval is relative to where the selected driver. Excuse me. Best lap time, of course, that they've done in the race. You can quickly see, obviously, who's got the best time. Last lap time, and then you've got sector 1, sector 2, and if there's more sectors, obviously it will have the rest of them. Their current speed, their best top speed that's been recorded, the amount of times that they've pitted, how long they spent in the pit lane, and then what we have is that's pit count, that's the pit lap, so what lap they came in and actually pitted. And then we have pit lane time, so how long they were actually on the pit lane for. And then we have the pit time, so how long they were physically stationary in the pit box. And then we have off tracks. So that is off tracks based on the GPS sort of waypoints of the circuit, not iRacing's off track. So if they've exceeded the white lines of the circuit, it will pick it up. So slightly different to the off tracks. Right, at this point, that's kind of all you need to know on the iRacing live timing. You're now connected, and you're connected to the broadcaster, and he can control the camera angles. You don't need to do anything. If, however, at any point you want to change back to control, so you can switch your own cameras, just change to master mode, and you can also change from broadcaster to from commentator to broadcaster, and that will give you full control back of your iRacing window for whatever reason you might need to. Yeah, quite useful. And now you'll be able to commentate exactly on what's going out on the broadcast. Right, so part 2 of this video is to talk about how we get the live timing overlay software, and you be able to commentate on that, so you can actually commentate on what is being presented to the public on our streams on Facebook and on YouTube. For this, I recommend that we install OBS. You don't have to install OBS, you can use XSplit, but for this tutorial I'm going to do it. They're pretty much exactly the same thing. So just go ahead and run the installer. It's in the other software section, and when you are finished, let me just quickly run my software. I've obviously already installed it, so I'm just going to run it in the background. Hopefully it's going to start. Here we go. So I've already got all of the windows. I'll kill iRacing for the moment, but I'll leave the live timing one in there. So just follow the screen prompts to obviously get the software installed. I believe when it first comes up you'll have the auto configuration wizard. Now if you're not going to do any streaming and you haven't got it installed at the moment, just go optimize for local recording, 1080. You could go 720, but yeah, 1080 seems absolutely fine. And just go next, set the settings and apply. Then what we need to do is we basically need to add our sources into our scene. You only need one scene for what we're doing. You obviously won't see the intros and things like that. There's no way of us replicating that. We're only interested in the iRacing window. So one scene, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go add, and then we're going to look for game capture. Now at this point you have to have iRacing running, and we would have had that already running because we've set up the live timing. But yeah, so I'm just going to call this iRacing, and then go OK. And then mode, we're going to capture. We don't want any full screen application because the overlay software also uses DirectX 11, so we're going to capture a specific window, and then the window we want to capture, again assuming iRacing is already open, we're going to capture iRacing sim 64dx11.exe, and that's all you need to do on here. It's already brought in the window, so I'm going to go OK. Just going to quickly move this out the way onto the other screen, and let's just go and change the camera angle for the moment. Okay, so now what we have is we have iRacing previewed in the preview screen. It's up and running. Now that will obviously change cameras on its own. So if I just change like TV1, TV2, this is what effectively you'll be experiencing. You know, it will change that. It will change. Given if we go onto the roll bar. Right now that's kind of what you'll see. You won't have any overlay graphics or anything like that, so it's important for us to go and get them really. So what you need to do is you need to add a browser. So go plus and then go browser, and then you'll get the configuration settings. Now when you add a new one it will always default to the top. If for whatever reason you do them in the wrong way round, you need to make sure that iRacing live timing is on the top. So let's just pretend that I've gone plus browser and I've called it live timing, iRacing live timing, and now I'm going to click the settings, and we're going to basically fill in the URL for it. Now in Discord I'm going to put underneath this video, I'm going to put a couple of URLs. The first one is for the actual overlay software. The second one is the live timing via like a web page, which you can use for a tablet, or you can use a web page if you want on your PC. But if you've got the room, if you've got a second screen, I would just run the live timing as your live timing timing screen. So yeah, just copy the URL that's in Discord. that comes up to the equal sign here. So the http process live timing.stk-gaming.co.uk/f1-gaming blah 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 equals. Now, in the project file that you loaded, I remember I said we need to make sure that we're all on the same room name. Well, this is where you grab the room name from. So you just copy that room name. So BSR IMSA is what we're doing, and you'll need to do this for all the different series you do. If you only broadcast the one series, well, then you'll only need the one, and you'll never need to change it. But obviously, if you are changing it, you just highlight, click like I've done, and you just change the room name at the end. Now, the first time you do it, you will need to set the width and height. Now, even though you think, oh, I'm setting it at 1920 by 1080, you have to set the overlay at 1536 by 864. I will also put that in the Discord below, so that you can go ahead and just copy and paste it in there. Leave the rest of it the same, and then just click OK. Now, it will by default have the little tick. I just unticked it for the start. Now it's pulling in the information. Now that's pulling it down from our server, our SDK gaming server. So you don't have to have the live timing software to run. It will just pull that down naturally. But yeah, so anything that is being presented on screen will be sent to the iRacing SDK gaming server, and you will pull it down there. So if I'm showing the intro sort of graphic on screen, or I could show the grid, for example, you get that information available. I can hide that. I'll bring up the race graphics, for example. Let me just tweak them ever so slightly and go nowhere. There we go. So, of course, this is just me just tweaking things on my end. You wouldn't need to be doing that. See, the broadcaster is going to take care of absolutely all of this. So let's just go to sort of TV Cam 2, and yeah. So right now you could literally commentate on the race with all the information that's come up. So if we go to roll bar, you will know that Chad Simpson's on the roll bar. I can bring the HUD up, so you can sort of, you know, read out the sort of speeds that they're doing. This is all in kilometers now, which is I guess not great for Indy, but it's not an issue. If I look at Chad, if I go 13 and 12 and 13. And I can go show the delta screen, so you can see the gap, how the gaps evolve between Chad and Prudhomme here. Yes, I can't pronounce names. I'm awful. Over the last 3 laps, so it's just some of the graphics that we can show. You know, so you'll have all that information available for you to do, or we could have like the battle box, so you can see the current battles going on out there. But yeah, so of course there's just a few other bits as well. You've all seen them on the overlay anyway. So the gain, I can obviously say how many pit stops they've had. Of course, it's going to show 0 at the moment because it's not tracked anything. The best laps that they've done. So car logos and things like that. Obviously this is just a Dallara, but it's useful for like the GT3, stuff like that. So yeah, you'll be able to see all of that information. And then if I was to hide that information, you can do, you know, social media prompts. It gives you a little reminder, and that's something that sort of like the race director might and the broadcaster might sort of say, oh, you know, don't forget to promote that, or something else. You know, they might type in, you know, coming up tomorrow or something like that next to it. It's just like little prompts that they can bring up on screen for you as well. Just sort of give them a little shout. We might not always have the map on screen, and just be like that. And of course they can bring up team names, or like you can have last laps and fastest laps and things like that on there. So like I say, you've all seen the overlay software, but it's flipping up on screen and you can see it. Now, while this is great and you can see everything, you might think, well, It's a bit hard to see, I've only got a piddly little screen. So what we can do is we can go right click and go full screen projector preview. Now if you've got one screen, it'll be just display 0 and 0 0. If you've got two screens, if it's your main monitor, it'll be the one that's 0 0. If it's not, then it'll be one of the others. Now of course I have 4, but I just happen to know that this is my left screen for my main one, so that's my full screen. So you can just click that and it takes you to full screen, and now you literally have just got your world, like I say, are basically the equivalent of the world feed. So you can just, it would be like sort of, you know, Crofty and Brundle commentating on F1, that they get a feed in and they have live timing window on their other monitor that they're looking at, and that's exactly kind of what we're sort of envisioning for you guys. So you can see all this graphical information coming up on screen. You can pull that available to you, or you can pull it from the live timing screen as well. There's so much information available, and with us all seeing exactly the same thing before it goes out on YouTube, there should be no reason why we can't really sort of deliver an absolute topping sort of commentary product, where before we just normally talk about what, even with just some drivers have, or some commentators have been using the software just to change the camera angles and things like that, and we have been you know, we've been commentating on the camera angles and stuff, which has been great, but it's going to be make so much better, much of a difference to show all the graphics as well. When you're done with that, just hit escape and it will come out, and of course you can just close OBS off and close your iRacing down, and away you go. What I will point out is you will need to make sure that your iRacing is running in the background and not minimized out of the way. So for example, I just shrunk it down like crazy. If I blow it out big on this particular screen, I'll need to make sure I bring OBS to the foreground to keep it yeah, as long as iRacing is running, it doesn't, like I say, it's just capturing the window, and then I can then go preview. This is how you do it if you were all on one screen, of course, you know. So you'd have your iRacing live timing screen, you'd have it all set up with the relevant room name here, and then you would minimize that out of the way. I'm just going to grab that out of the way just for the moment. So let's just pretend that's minimized out of the way. You'd have your iRacing window up, loaded in on this screen in the background, and then you pop open your OBS. That would then grab that capture. You've got the live timing coming in, and yeah, from here, what you'd want to do is you'd want to make sure your sort of your iRacing overlay is turned off. Yeah. So what you can do is in the live timing software, you can just hit the button here, and then just go hide UI, and then minimize that out of the way. Or if you've got that on your other screen, you just go hide UI, and then that just gets that out of the way. And yeah, and then it's just a case of preview on the relevant monitor, and then there you go, you've got it all on full screen. And yeah, we're all commentating on the same thing, so that's all running on the one screen then, so it's not like you have to worry about sort of desktop real estate and how much room and trying to squeeze it all into one desktop. You can just get it all there, overlapped over each other, and previewing away. Even if you have don't have the live timing, room for live timing on a separate screen, you can just have it minimized down and out of the way, and then just hit escape when you're done. Like I say, close off your live timing, close off your iRacing, and then close down OBS, and you're done. Right, well, hopefully that's it. If there's any questions, just let me know. Yeah, it should be straightforward enough. I'm really looking forward to giving this a try. But yeah, just post on the chat below on Discord if you've got any questions.